What if self-improvement is just self-rejection in disguise? We live in a culture obsessed with becoming more productive, more successful, more healed. But beneath the shiny routines and motivational mantras lies a quieter truth. The endless chase to be better often pulls us further from who we truly are. Unbecoming isn't about giving up on growth. It's about questioning who you were told to become in the first place. This is not a journey of addition, but of subtraction, of shedding the masks, the metrics, and the myths that keep you from your most authentic self. We've been conditioned to believe that who we are today is merely a stepping stone to who we should be tomorrow. The self-improvement narrative insists we must constantly be evolving, becoming, fixing, and optimizing, an endless loop of inadequacy masked as ambition. This myth of perpetual self-betterment is often disguised as discipline or high standards, but at its core, it can be a deeply rooted form of self-rejection. It implies that the current version of ourselves is always lacking, never quite good enough, always in need of repair. This mindset creates a subtle but powerful psychological trap. No matter how much progress we make, the bar moves. We reach one goal, only to be met with another. The better self is always just out of reach. Happiness becomes conditional. Peace is postponed. Fulfillment is delayed until the next milestone. And in this delay, life is lost. We don't realize how much of our identity is being shaped by the assumption that we must become someone else in order to be worthy, loved, or successful. The myth feeds off comparison. Social media amplifies it, showcasing curated versions of people who seem to have unlocked the perfect morning routine, the most disciplined habits, or the most optimized mindset. In response, we internalize a belief that self-worth is something to be earned through constant striving. But what if the very act of striving is what's keeping us from true contentment? What if growth isn't about addition, but subtraction? Not becoming more, but becoming less performative, less externally defined, less attached to the idea of constant change. The pressure to continually improve also creates burnout disguised as personal development. We hustle in the name of progress, but underneath it lies anxiety and fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of being average, fear of being unremarkable. We fear stillness because we associate with stagnation, even though real transformation often happens in the quiet, unproductive spaces. The myth keeps us addicted to doing, not being. Moreover, self-improvement often operates on borrowed ideals. We chase goals that aren't truly ours, shaped by cultural norms, parental expectations, or societal definitions of success. We rarely pause to ask, who am I improving for? Who gets to define better? In many cases, the answers reveal a deep disconnection from our authentic selves. By questioning this myth, we begin to see self-improvement not as a universal good, but as a tool, one that can either liberate or imprison us, depending on how it's used. There's nothing wrong with growth, but when growth becomes a compulsive escape from who we are right now, it stops being healthy. We don't need to constantly become something new to be valuable. Sometimes the most profound shift happens not when we chase after who we could be, but when we finally accept who we already are. The self-improvement industry thrives on one fundamental premise. You are not enough. This idea is subtly woven into every motivational quote, every morning routine hack, every life coach pitch, and every best-selling personal development book. The moment you believe that something is missing in you, you become the perfect customer, ready to invest time, money, and energy into fixing what was never broken in the first place. From productivity systems to mindset courses, the promise is always the same. If you just do this, you'll finally be worthy, successful, confident, or happy. This constant promise of better creates a loop of dependency. Instead of empowering individuals to trust themselves, the industry often fosters insecurity masked as motivation. It commodifies inner peace, sells curated identities, and feeds people carefully packaged versions of enlightenment. You're encouraged to chase a version of success that looks suspiciously like everyone else's, filtered, disciplined, always striving, never resting. The message is clear. Your value is in your progress, your worth is in your improvement, and your happiness lies just around next corner, never here and never now. What's more insidious is how this dynamic hijacks the very language of healing and growth. Words like mindfulness, purpose, alignment, and authenticity are co-opted, turned into marketing buzzwords, stripped of depth and sold back as lifestyle accessories. A once sacred inner journey becomes a brand. You're not evolving, you're upgrading, like a product judged by how optimized and polished you appear. It's capitalism in disguise, turning self-exploration into a marketable, scalable process. The pressure to always be evolving also creates shame around stillness. Rest becomes laziness. Contentment becomes complacency. If you're not striving to be the best version of yourself, you're seen as lacking ambition. But this mindset leads to emotional exhaustion. People begin to feel like projects rather than persons, constantly in beta, never fully arrived, always chasing a moving target. At its worst, the industry exploits trauma and vulnerability. It preys on people who are hurting, offering surface-level solutions to deep-rooted issues. Instead of helping individuals reconnect with themselves, it often pushes them to conform to idealized versions of who they should be. Real growth becomes obscured by performative transformation, and healing is replaced with hustle. All of this is masked by the illusion of empowerment. You feel like you're taking control, but often you're just subscribing to a new form of control, one that keeps you constantly measuring, comparing, and doubting. What's truly radical is not buying into another framework, but stepping outside the need for frameworks altogether. The moment you begin to question who benefits from your insecurity, the system starts to lose power. When you stop consuming in the name of improvement and start trusting in your own inherent worth, you reclaim your autonomy. You realize that maybe you don't need another book, another seminar, another morning ritual. Maybe what you need is already within you and has been all along. Unbecoming is not the absence of growth. It's the most courageous form of it. While the world pushes us to become more, do more, and achieve more, Unbecoming invites us to strip away the layers of conditioning that never belonged to us in the first place. It's a return, not a pursuit. Instead of striving to reach some idealized version of ourselves, we begin to question who we had to become to feel accepted, safe, or successful in the first place. The masks we wear, perfectionism, people-pleasing, overachievement, often began as survival strategies, not true reflections of our essence. To unbecome is to unravel those layers with honesty and intention. It's realizing that growth isn't always about addition. Sometimes it's about subtraction, letting go of roles we've outgrown, identities we never chose, and goals we inherited from others. We live in a culture that equates change with improvement and improvement with worth. But what if real transformation happens not through effort, but through surrender, through releasing the need to be anything other than what we are here and now? This path requires immense self-trust. Letting go of who you think you're supposed to be is terrifying, especially when your identity and success have been built on those patterns. You may feel like you're losing your direction, your ambition, or your place in the world. But what you're actually losing is the illusion of control, of certainty, of needing to be constantly on. Trusting yourself means embracing the unknown, tuning into your inner voice over external validation, and recognizing that intuition is not weakness, it's wisdom. Unbecoming disrupts the narrative that you're always a project under construction. It affirms that you don't have to justify your existence through performance or productivity. In a world obsessed with the metrics of success, followers, revenue, status, choosing to let go rather than keep up is radical. It reclaims a power that's been outsourced to systems and structures that profit from your disconnection. Self-trust isn't loud. It doesn't seek applause. It's a quiet, consistent knowing that you are enough. Not when you achieve more, but when you finally stop running from yourself. It allows for rest without guilt, authenticity without fear, and decisions that align with your soul rather than societal pressure. The more you trust yourself, the less approval you need from others. The less you chase significance, the more you discover meaning. Ironically, unbecoming often reveals the person you've been all along, the one buried beneath years of shoulds, expectations, and self-imposed roles. That version of you doesn't need fixing. It needs remembering. And while the journey may feel like a dismantling, what's really happening is a rebuilding on a foundation that's real, rooted, and fully yours. The obsession with constant progress has created a culture where presence is undervalued, even feared. We are conditioned to measure our worth by movement toward goals, milestones, outcomes. Stillness is mistaken for stagnation. Rest is misinterpreted as laziness. The result is a society of individuals always reaching for something just out of reach, perpetually living in the next chapter rather than this one. The future becomes a destination where fulfillment lives, while the present becomes a mere stepping stone, something to be optimized rather than experienced. Presence, by contrast, is inherently non-transactional. It asks for nothing but your attention. It doesn't produce immediate results, nor does it guarantee tangible success. That's precisely why it's so radical in a system built on measurable output. Being present disrupts the belief that value comes only from what you produce or how far you've advanced. It affirms that your existence, your breath, your awareness in this exact moment is enough, not because it's a means to something else, but because it is the something else. The chase for progress keeps people locked in a cycle of deferred happiness. I'll feel peace when I reach this goal. I'll finally be proud of myself when I achieve that milestone. But the moment one goal is reached, the next one emerges. There's no finish line, only a treadmill disguised as purpose. This is a trap. The illusion that life begins after you become better, more disciplined, more successful, more whatever. Meanwhile, life is happening right now, quietly, waiting to be noticed. Presence demands a different kind of courage. It requires a slowing down in a world that rewards speed. It involves letting go of the need to constantly improve, and instead, being willing to sit with what is, your emotions, your body, your reality, without trying to change it. That's not complacency. That's intimacy. It's learning to be with yourself fully, without distraction or performance. It's where real connection lives, not just with yourself, but with others, with the world, and with moments that cannot be captured or replicated. Progress is not inherently wrong, but when it becomes compulsive, it erodes the ability to savor. It teaches us that we must earn rest, earn joy, earn enoughness. Presence, however, makes those things available immediately, unconditionally. It returns us to the now, where life is actually happening, not in the someday, but in the sensations, breath, and awareness that exist in this very moment. In presence, there is clarity. Without the noise of constant striving, we begin to hear what truly matters. Not the next metric of success, but the quiet truth of what we feel, need, and value. We remember that we're not machines to be optimized, but humans meant to live deeply. The irony is that the more present we become, the more aligned our actions are, and ironically, the more natural our progress feels. Not forced, not frantic, just right. The prevailing idea that we must always become more disciplined, more productive, more enlightened, has created a distorted view of personal growth. We associate more with value and significance, as if the accumulation of achievements or traits makes us whole. But what if becoming less reactive, less performative, less bound by external definitions, actually allows us to feel more connected, more grounded, more real? This inversion of the traditional growth narrative reveals that depth doesn't always come from doing, but often from undoing. Stripping away the layers we built to protect or prove ourselves is not a regression. It's a return. Many of the behaviors we consider strengths, overworking, people-pleasing, hyper-independence, were likely survival strategies. They helped us feel safe or worthy in environments that rewarded certain versions of us while rejecting others. Over time, we confuse these performances with personality, and we forget that our truest self existed long before we learned to edit or control it. Becoming less means questioning the need to constantly show up as the best version of ourselves. That version is often curated to meet external expectations. It's not authentic, it's strategic. When we let go of the pressure to be impressive or exceptional, we make room for authenticity. And authenticity isn't polished, it's honest. It allows space for flaws, vulnerability, and contradiction. That's where real connection and meaning are found, not in perfection, but in presence. In shedding what we're not, we create emotional spaciousness. The energy once used to maintain appearances, manage impressions, or chase validation is freed up. And with that space, we begin to actually feel not just surface-level emotions, but the deeper textures of our inner world. We notice our intuition more. We experience joy in simpler things. We allow grief to move through us rather than suppressing it. This depth of feeling is what many people are truly seeking underneath all the striving. Not another goal, but a sense of wholeness. This journey also challenges the societal obsession with identity as achievement. In constantly defining ourselves through titles, roles, and labels, we miss the fluidity of being. Who we are cannot be reduced to what we do or how much we produce. By becoming less attached to those definitions, we step into a more expansive version of self. Not smaller, but freer. We stop confusing value with visibility, and we remember that presence doesn't need applause to be valid. Ironically, becoming less allows us to embody more of what truly matters. When we stop trying to prove ourselves, we begin to trust ourselves. When we let go of performing strength, we access real resilience. When we're no longer striving to be something else, we finally give ourselves permission to be. That's not a loss, it's a liberation. A shedding of everything that stood between us and our most human, feeling, alive self. So maybe the real work isn't about becoming someone new, but remembering who you were before the world told you you weren't enough. Unbecoming is not failure. It's freedom. It's choosing presence over pressure, self-trust over self-improvement, and wholeness over hustle. When you stop trying to upgrade yourself like a product and start honoring yourself like a person, everything changes. Not because you became more, but because you finally stopped trying to be anything other than you. If this message speaks to you, maybe it's time to let go of the becoming and begin the beautiful, brave work of unbecoming.